For people who grew up with little money, what always felt like a luxury. After growing up in a home where every unexpected problem was a financial emergency, my idea of wealthy became, I just want enough money that if something breaks I don't get anxiety about how to deal with it. Edit. Thank you all. Getting new clothes at Christmas from relatives. I don't know if that is exactly a luxury or the kind of answer you are looking for, but we never had a lot of money when I was in middle school. I went an entire year wearing the same pants every day. The funny thing was my parents didn't even buy them for me. I got them for Christmas from my grandparents. All the kids used to give me so much shit for wearing the same pants every day. I always told them that I had 5 of the same pair, which made me feel good inside, and kind of made them ease off even though I know they didn't believe me. I remember I fell on the school bus one day and the jagged floor cut a hole right in the kneecap, and the panic that went over me was just insane. It was one of the worst feelings of my whole life because I knew that I didn't have any other pants to wear, and that now all of the kids in my school were going to know that I only had one pair. Needless to say, I could not wait for the last month of school to end. Edit. Just want to say thank you for all of the awards. I honestly didn't think that this comment would really mean much to anyone, but I can see that I was defiantly not alone in my situation growing up. I appreciate everyone sharing their support and stories. This did have a great impact on my life and it shaped who I am in a lot of ways. Thank you all again for sharing your stories and support. When my paternal grandmother found out my brother, same mom, different dad, only had 2 pairs of pants that fit him for school that year, she sent my mother money specifically to buy only him clothes. And when I'd spend my summers with my dad, my grandmother would buy me and my brother new wardrobes for the school year, and plenty of school supplies for both of us, even though she had zero obligation to my brother. She refused to allow him to have no decent clothes for the school year, and she especially didn't want him to think he somehow deserved less than me just because his paternal family wouldn't do the same for him. She's been gone 15 years and he and I still talk about this. Edit. I can't get over how much love is pouring in over what my grandmother considered nothing more than doing the right thing. I thought I'd tell y'all another great story about my grandmother. So my grandmother hated my second stepfather. It's a long convoluted story, but basically he was friends with my dad's brother growing up, and while my parents were married he and my mom slept together. But he was really good to me, so she tolerated him. Anyway, I was about 11 when my mom was pregnant with my youngest sibling. And I specifically remember my parents worrying about not being able to afford a new car seat. I came home from school one day and my mom was crying. Turned out to be happy tears because my grandmother, who hadn't been my mother's mother-in-law in over a decade and didn't have the nicest feelings towards her or my stepdad, had sent my mother a $500 check in a card with the stipulation that none of it was to be spent on my brother or I, only on the new baby. She was such a wonderful woman. I miss her all the time. Summer camp, or basically any school trips that had to be paid for. At my school, the kids who couldn't afford to go on trips that happened during school hours still had to come to the school. We just sat in a room and did extra work like it was detention. I was lucky. If you taught at the day camp, your kid could go for free. That was just day camp though, not sleepaway camp. My mom found a camp teacher who had no kids of his own and he signed me up as his kid so I could get free day camp. Did that all through elementary school. The MY school district put in place a policy that any school trips, teams included, must take all members even if they cannot pay. So to pay for class trips we'd do fundraising activities. It was a lifesaver, because without that policy I probably wouldn't have gone. When my grandma would come pick me up and spoil me. My parents didn't have much money and were addicts, so when my grandma would come get me I would come back with new clothes, video games, toys, etc. I used to think my grandma was rich, but she actually just had a stable income. Going out for pizza was a big deal. Those free mini pizzas for reading books were huge. I am from a small island in the Pacific. While I mostly still take cold showers, I have always felt that a hot shower is the finest luxury one can experience. I had my first hot shower when I was 22 years old and I can never forget it. Grew up poor, and when I was a kid I used to think you were rich if you had a dishwasher and a millionaire if you had one of those refrigerators that have a button for iced up. McDonald's was also a luxury. A couple times a year on our birthdays. Damn, my husband also says this about refrigerator ice. We moved to a house with an ice dispensing refrigerator and he said, I feel rich now. My uncle renovated his kitchen recently and had an ice dispensing fridge put in. Because it's fancy and rich like on American TV. This is the kind of luxury I think people take for granted. I always avoided showers in the winter as a kid since most of the time they were cold showers, and the temperature here was around 12°C during those times, for sure. I've never been without heated water, but I kind of annoy my wife in the winter when we shower because every time we go in I make a comment about how amazing it is to be able to just turn a knob and have hot water coming out of pipes. I mean, having clean, running water at all is a miracle in and of itself. But taking a hot shower whenever I want is something not even the richest people of yesteryear could get. Having the heating on. We used to go to bed in our sleeping bags in winter, which was really cool back then, pretty depressing now. McDonald's. I knew we were living well when my parents took me through the drive-thru. No Happy Meals though. It's cheaper to get a hamburger and fries. You have toys at home. A meal out in a restaurant, not even a fancy one. Happy Meals were a birthday treat for me. Mom didn't get herself anything. Told me she wasn't hungry. I didn't understand until I was older. At the end of the season, sometimes the grocery store would have peck baskets of peaches on sale for a dime to clear them out before they went bad. And if Mom had a spare dime, she'd buy them and tell us to eat all we wanted. Normally fruit was limited to one a day if there was any at all. Man, we'd hit those peaches like a plague of locusts. I grew up broke and am incredibly fortunate to have money as an adult. Meals out when I was a kid were huge. I think I only really remember 3 in my whole childhood. So as an adult who does largely whatever I like, going out to dinner still thrills me. Always get dressed up, make the most of it, etc. Craft macaroni and cheese as opposed to store brand soda out of a can. Any restaurant where you sit down and get a menu. Having the AC on in the car, just getting some goddamn crafts, man. I was the kid you could entertain the rest of the night with popsicle sticks, glitter, and glue. You know what I never got to do? Crafts, because the only popsicle sticks we ever got were none. The glue was for school only. Don't let your friends borrow your glue/crayons/pencils. We can't buy more till income tax. And glitter meant more electricity vacuuming it up. I am now a grown woman with a craft room that sparkles like a dragon horde. I make Martha Stewart weep, squinting face with tongue.